On today's show, it's a comeback story about a river. We'll see firsthand how the Vermillion River Restoration Project is working for us and the trout. And no, this base camp is not just for Boy Scouts. We tag along on what this camp has to offer and how it's introducing kids to the great outdoors.
So we're getting wild in the kitchen today with Chef
Laura Shera is gearing up for fall, and what's better than pheasant on the menu? And our Minnesota-bound classic has a title that says it all, Land of the Living Skies. Those stories and more, next.
Minnesota Bound. Brought to you by Minnesota's select GMC dealers.
Hi everybody, Raven and I welcome you to the show. Well, it's no secret that over time we've abused our rivers and streams, but it's also true that some folks are working hard to restore those rivers. Such is the case on the Vermillion River, where the Vermillion is starting to look almost new again.
It's amazing to see such a small river getting such big attention.
This is a mixture of sawdust and prairie grass and prairie flower seeds.
Volunteers spend a lot of time on the Vermillion River these days. You see, the river winds through several of the Twin Cities' far southern suburbs, and the stream has captured our attention. Why? Well, you need to go back 10 years to a day a DNR crew snuck in to do a little river research. The team wanted to find out what fish live in this little forgotten river. What workers found literally left Minnesota anglers in awe.
Gorgeous Minnesota brown trout.
Minnesota had a gem of a trout stream hiding right around the Twin Cities metro area. Problem was, the stream was eroded and slowly dying. In the 10 years since that special day on the river, a lot has changed. The state of Minnesota purchased pieces of property along the Vermillion and worked to create more public access. Trout Unlimited volunteers have helped the state rehab the stream, and now another chapter in the Vermillion storied book. Volunteers work alongside the DNR to rehabilitate another section of the Vermillion, this time roughly 2,000 feet.
This is our third project on the river. We did the original project a few years ago.
Workers hope to stabilize eroded banks, narrow the stream, creating faster, colder water, and then replant the native prairie nearby. The whole idea, hold back soil and prevent further erosion.
Right today we're putting down prairie seed. We've finished grading, putting in the toewood in the banks, lowering extremely high, very fragile banks, bringing them down to very low levels. So if it floods gently, doesn't rip up the stream.
This single project, part of a much bigger picture, the idea to protect the Vermillion.
We've been fortunate enough to get funding through the Outdoor Heritage Fund, and so we've really accelerated the pace.
If we can get the river clean, stabilize the banks, create a nice prairie atmosphere, we end up with clean, cold, clear water, and the fish like that. And so we get the benefit of that too, but we all benefit by improving this river.
A quick drive upstream might help you understand what they're trying to do.
Okay, this is basically the same as what we were just at, but this project was done about 3 years ago. So what you're seeing here is a stream that's now where the banks have regrown and the stream is settled into its new course, and it's more natural looking.
And more suitable for trout. See, trout won't survive in dirty, warm water. They need cold, clean water, something the Vermillion can provide once the volunteers take it back to its original state.
As you can see, the prairie grass, once it reestablishes itself, will lay down over the river. Gives them a wonderful place for the fish to tuck underneath there, and they can hide.
You know, we're just thankful for the opportunity to use the LaSard funding to get more conservation done and get more of the public engaged in conservation.
The goal that someday we might all look back and see that we protected a river. It's another of Minnesota's wild places, not forgotten, but instead protected as an outdoor legacy.
Tag along as we check out this new base camp for Scouts and what it has to offer to kids about the great outdoors.
Minnesota Bound, brought to you by Minnesota's select GMC dealers. Connecticut. And by Rapala.
Up next, you may have read that the Boy Scouts of America have a new base camp here in Minnesota in a most unusual place, Fort Snelling. But what you may not know is it's not only for Scouts.
Boy Scouts live by a single code. It goes, be prepared. The newest Scout camp in Minnesota helps kids, not just Scouts, do just that.
Welcome to base camp, ladies and gentlemen. How are you doing today? Good. Maybe you could try that again. Welcome to base camp. How are you doing today? Fantastic. Yeah. Okay, sound a little bit better.
It is a Boy Scout camp in a sense, but we built it to be a resource for the community.
Here's the catch. Base camp, as it's called, sits not out in some distant north woods, but instead a little closer to home. In fact, right off the runway next to Minneapolis-St. Paul International Airport.
We're connected to the state park. Fort Snelling State Park is very nearby, within walking distance.
The Scouts sort of stumbled onto a gem when they discovered the camp's site. It has everything to do with the old building. It's quite a story.
This building was built in 1907, and it was a cavalry drill hall for the fort, so they trained military horses in this building. We purchased it from the Minneapolis Park Board in 2008 and opened in October of 2010 as an urban camp.
The building itself is over 100 years old, and then we took these spectacular activities and put them in here as well.
Now kids can rock climb and challenge themselves on a tricky high ropes course.
Big reason that we picked this location is because it's in kind of the city, but it's also really connected to the outdoors. And that was important to us. We don't want to isolate kids from the outdoors. We want to give them a safe way to experience it. So even though we're in the city, we're in a great area of the city that's really connected to kind of pretty remote wilderness. Northern Star Council created a few years ago a pretty lofty goal of influencing 100% of the youth in our community, whether or not they're Scouts, in a positive way.
On this day, school kids wind their way through base camp. These young adventurers get a lesson in team building. The teacher, the ropes.
Once you've checked, you're going to tighten your waist belt first. They're grabbing this metal buckle here, and you're going to pull straight back. A lot of people want to pull out to the sides. That actually locks it, so you're not going to be able to move the webbing at all. So you're going to pull it straight back, so it's tight.
I think one of the big things that we get is they're focused on a task. When we have a typical school group in, they're working in a small group for 5 hours. And they're engaged that whole time. There's not a whole lot of distractions, and they're just focused on the task and their team. And those 5 hours fly by for them.
So while you're practicing pop quiz, ladies, I say hook. You guys repeat that back. Hook.
We need 2 spotters, and Ellie, who's your course buddy?
Again, while this is a Scout camp, the North Star Council hopes kids outside of Scouting will visit.
We have several ways that you can come to base camp. Schools from the suburbs and the city come to base camp, so you can encourage your school to take a field trip here. We also have open climbing and archery sessions that are available to the public 3 times a month.
Don't be fooled.
Come on, Ellie.
The ropes aren't easy, but that's kind of the point.
They've been brave. they're really trying stuff without even questioning it. They're really trusting their team members and themselves a lot. It's great.
Transfer line 2.
Well, it's different. Like, you don't get to do this every day, and it's a good way to, like, get to know people and become a team.
I thought I wasn't gonna do it.
How come?
I'm not that good with heights, but I did it, so.
How do you feel about heights now?
Fine, I'm not scared of them anymore.
Life lessons learned at camp on the ropes.
Have a little reduction.
And Laura Shera is wild in the kitchen with a menu that includes, would you believe, tasty pheasant.
Closed captioning is brought to you by the Yard, premier manufacturers of maintenance-free outdoor patio furniture and accessories from recycled plastic.
Won't be long, the pheasant seasons will be opening, and with that thought in mind, daughter Laura and Chef Jim are in the kitchen, going wild in the kitchen, I might add, grilling ringneck pheasant.
One of my favorite hunting seasons is just around the corner, and that is pheasant hunting. And the reason for that is because I love to eat it. So we're getting wild in the kitchen today with Chef Jim Kinberg from Fire Lake Grill House and Cocktail Bar. And Jim, I hear we're making stuffed pheasant breast today?
We are. We've got some great ingredients. We've got some beautiful pheasant. Everybody's favorite, we've got a little smoked bacon. There's going to be some local apples involved and some brie cheese as well. So that'll be stuffed inside, give it a little pan sear, it'll be delicious.
That sounds delicious. So how do we get started?
First step is going to be breasting out the pheasant.
All right.
Yeah, it takes a little practice, but it is pretty simple. Now that we have our breast removed, there's one more little step we're going to need the knife for.
Okay.
And then we're going to give it a little butterfly so we have a nice little pocket in which to stuff it. So now that we've got it butterflied, what we're going to do is just pound it out, tenderize it just a little bit. Would you like to do the honors?
Of course, this is the best part, right?
You got
just start pounding
Not
away.
too hard. There you go, just
Gentle.
like that. Exactly. Now for the good stuff. We're going to be stuffing with a little brie cheese and a little green apple. So we're going to take the slice down like that, lay that right in the center like so. Use whatever apples you have available as long as they're nice and fresh. Then we're just going to fold that baby over like that.
And that's it?
There you have a nice stuffed pheasant breast.
So we know everything's better with bacon, and I'm
Yes,
noticing that this is in this recipe.
It is. It's here for two reasons. Number one is flavor. Number two, pheasant breast is very lean, tends to dry out pretty quickly. So this is our little insurance policy to keep it nice and moist. And just wrap it up like that. So we want to get the pan nice medium-high heat. You want to hear a little sizzle just like that when it goes in. Just let it sit there for about 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes. That bacon's going to crisp up, it's going to seal, and then we'll give it a little flip. So yeah, we're going to actually remove this from the pan. Put it on a little sizzler. Throw this in a 325-degree oven, about 5 to 7 minutes in the oven. All right. You can see that nice crisp bacon. There's a little cheese oozing out of there. Looks and smells delicious, exactly. So we're going to serve this with a little grilled polenta cake. We've got our beet greens we sauteed. We're going to put those right in the center. And then the centerpiece is the pheasant.
Wow.
I ended up making a little stock out of the pheasant bones themselves, and I cooked it down with some roasted apples and some cider. So we have a little reduction of some pheasant apple cider jus. We're just going to kind of roll that on the side there for a nice little wild game gourmet treat.
Thank you, Jim. Once again, it's so simple to do, yet so wildly delicious.
Hi, I'm Rob Drieslein, Managing Editor of the Outdoor News Publications. The Gopher State's 10th mourning dove hunting season kicked off on September 1st, and even though the wild little pigeons are America's #1 game bird, dove hunting has yet to take off in Minnesota. The United States contains an estimated 350 million mourning doves, and they're immensely popular in places like Texas, where 250,000 hunters killed roughly 5 million doves in 2012. When Minnesota held its first modern mourning dove hunt in 2004, State Department of Natural Resources officials thought that between 30,000 and 50,000 hunters might pursue the sporting birds. But during that first year, only about 15,000 hunters chased mourning doves, and that number has declined down to 9,400 last year. Why hasn't dove hunting been more popular in Minnesota? Doves are abundant, at least before they migrate in late September. They're fun to hunt, don't require much gear, and the birds are easy to clean and delicious to eat. DNR officials and dove hunting enthusiasts suggest a couple of reasons. For one thing, Minnesota doesn't have the storied dove hunting traditions of many southern states. Second, Minnesotans have a growing number of outdoor options in late summer and early fall. Canada goose hunting seasons now begin in August, not to mention bear, archery, deer, and duck hunting, all up and rolling before the end of September. However many people hunt mourning doves, the prolific birds provide another color to the state's remarkable canvas of outdoor opportunities each fall. One final note, remember that story I shared 2 months ago about the oldest wild black bear ever recorded that was living in northern Minnesota? Well, the old gal passed away peacefully last month in a cool, quiet forest near Grand Rapids. First radio collared in 1981, the 39-and-a-half-year-old sow raised lots of cubs during her lifetime, and the information she provided to bear researchers has been extremely valuable to understanding the life cycle of her charismatic species. Rest in peace, bear number 56. For more information on how hunting seasons unfold this fall, read the print edition of Outdoor News or check us out online at outdoornews.com. I'm Rob Drieslein.
Our classic takes us to the land of the living sky. That's in Saskatchewan. Mother Nature at her best. Don't miss it.
Minnesota Bound, brought to you by Hennepin County Medical Center, Minnesota Agricultural Water Resources Coalition, Minnesota soybean farmers and their checkoff.
You know, over time I've enjoyed some memorable moments with Mother Nature. One of those, witnessing an elk migration in Colorado. Another time I was laying on my back in a hunting field in Saskatchewan, looking up at a sky that had turned into a living sky. A glow in the east signals the start of another day on Saskatchewan's vast prairie. It's late September, and you're a goose hunter wrapped in a blind of willow sticks. Your eyes scan the sky. You've come in search of snow geese. You wait, but you really have no clue about the snowstorm you are about to witness. This is the September song of snow geese, and it's music for your heart. As Saskatchewans themselves like to say, this is the land of the living sky. Snow geese by the thousands does not mean easy limits, however.
Right here, right here, right here. There were so many of them that I found myself getting overwhelmed with it, and with all the geese in the sky.
Our willow blind pulled in a few birds until the morning light exposed our hide. The morning hunt over, Hoosier the black lab was called on to sniff out the downed birds. With the wind on the prairie, we tried pass shooting as the geese moved from field to field. With so many birds, geese were passing almost anywhere. Hoosier was watching. So were the rest of us.
It's amazing the density of wildlife. It's just, and then just watch it on the prairie occur. Whether you were here or not, it would go on.
A goose hunter on the prairie also learned something else. Looking up at the living sky, you tend to feel small. As small as you'll ever feel. One of those stories when you still say you were glad you were there. Well, that about does it for us. Remember, introduce a kid to the great outdoors. I'm Ron Sharon, of course, always the star of the show, who's very antsy right now. I don't know why that is. Her name is Raven.
Transportation provided by Premier Transportation. Call 1-800-899-7433. For more information on these stories and more, catch us on the web at mnbound.com.